This car behind me wants to be the best small car in the world. Is it possible that it can achieve that? And is it better than the Renault 5 or the upcoming VW ID2 or ID Polo? This is here the Firefly, a new brand launched by Nio, a special small car brand. And how good is it? And also, how does it drive? We'll do it all for you. I'm Thomas, this is Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go with the new Firefly. And here, this is the Firefly scheme, so to speak, with these lights supposed to be like the Firefly dots in the dark. And it's very funny because this 3-dot structure is always the same also for the daytime running light. But then you have the turning indicator. Here is the normal beam, plus the high beam is then being housed here. This is lime green in the color. There will be a very interesting front to come very soon, even with a sinkhole, if you put like ice in it and so on. And there will be different colors available for sure. And the length here is 4 meters or 158 inches. So indeed, like the length approximate of a Renault 5 or the ID Polo that will be coming up. It's only that this one is already on the road in China. And they're also launching it in Europe, starting in Norway and in the Netherlands. And we already have a price for that. Soon going to talk about that. 18-inch wheels we can see here, always in this size. Relatively big already for a small car, so we'll check out the comfort as for that. And then you can get, for example, this contrasting roof. And in China, they always have the panoramic roof. And for Europe, it's planned that you can either go with a fixed roof or then again with this glass roof we can also show to you very soon. Here already on the outside you can see the design scheme is a pill, so to speak, like the form of a pill is the design scheme. So you can see here, for example, also for the charging port, AC is 7.4 or optional 11. Just put some German word in there. So 7.4 or 11 kilowatts AC. And DC charging peak is maximum 100, and then 29 minutes, 10 to 80% state of charge for this 41 kilowatt hour net battery. It's 42 kilowatt hour gross, so there's just a very, very tiny buffer. And similar size like the Renault 5 with a smaller battery. They also offer a little bit bigger one. Clearly the focus is city driving. We do some city driving here today, and I can also state you like a final consumption figure towards the end of the review and then calculate this range. And maybe when we can test it later on the German Autobahn and so on, then we can also talk about the Autobahn range. But it's of course one problem with small electric vehicles. They are suitable for the city, and on one hand you save resources because the batteries are smaller and they are not too heavy. This one here stays under 1.5 ton, so for an electric vehicle, still relatively light. But on the other hand, if you think about like 10, 20 years ago, no one would have bought a VW Polo or Renault Clio with a 20-liter gas tank, because of that range, So when I was a student, for example, and bought my first small car, I could go from Germany to Italy if I wanted to. Not possible with the EVs, at least not convenient if they have such a small battery. But then again, at this moment, that's what you can do to still keep it small and somewhat light and agile for the city. Looking forward to your feedback on that. But it's a general problem, not of the Firefly, of course. Here in the rear, you can see once again the Firefly dot design. Here, and I think it's a very lovely design. Also reminds us a little bit of the Mini design scheme in a way, just that this one here is distinctive and different. Just saying like Mini has started like this very playful thing, and they are also catching up on being playful, and that's actually a very nice thing. Talking about playful and driving, this one has rear-wheel drive as standard. That makes a small turning circle, 9.4 meters, the turning circle, because the front wheels then can freely turn right and left and so on, quite wide as well. And the acceleration figure is around 8 seconds from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour for 143 horsepower rear motor. So that sounds everything actually quite good and promising, but the interior, I can tell you, will be even more interesting. Well, the first interesting inside bit is the frunk, because yes, it does have one. Pull it twice on the inside and it opens. And it's 90 liters, so actually quite spacious. Later you will also be able to have like a segmentation in there. And then in the very left bottom there is a sinkhole. This is like a tiny dot here, and you can like remove a small cover, and then water can actually sink through. So for example, you can put ice cubes in it, have some drinks in it, or maybe like for your hobby, maybe something with water sports, and just put like the wet neoprene suit in there and like let the water rinse or something like that. So that's actually a cool thing. Also still here dampening underneath. I think it's a nice solution. Let's open the door here. These door hands, they come towards you also when you open the vehicle like this, and then door closing sound, pretty solid. Rear as well, so solid closing sound. Then inside of the doors, here is also somewhat soft and structured. Then here in this higher trim, you also have the microfiber inserts. Classic 4 window levers for all the windows. Yeah, even the Mercedes CLA only has 2 anymore. Yeah, and then here, this is the only hard pack part in here, the inside of the doors. And then the first look here at steering wheel and the seats and so on, rather minimalistic design, but still also with digital instruments. And this whole vehicle is actually made with animal-free materials on the interior. Welcome to this very interesting cockpit with a main 13-inch infotainment screen. Soon more details to that. Switch gear here. This is then for the gear selection, park mode there, left side, also real stalks for the turning indicators and also for the wipers, for example. Steering wheel can be adjusted up and down, in and out, and it's really small and yeah, this almost, again, this pill design here for this steering wheel. And then we have in this higher trim here also a microfiber cladding at the dashboard, here also with some leatherette. In the top part here, a big sound bar and the middle vents. Then we have a classic manual glove box like this. It's actually pretty large, gotta say that. And also a free floor here, so you have a spacious feeling. And that's why I also don't get any problem with my knees, because there are some small cars with this continued middle tunnel where it's really narrow than for the knees when you are like a tall person. Cup holders are also somewhat adaptive, at least one here in the front. This is where you either put your key card, or when you have it like your key on your phone, what is like the initial sense of that, then you just put your phone here, and this is also the ventilation for the
key card.
Yeah, for the ventilation, that the key card doesn't get hot. Yeah, so usually the key card is your phone, and then it's cooled here, and at the same time it's charged inductively. Then here you can fold up this and store something like a phone here, for example, and you can fold the whole thing up and then have more storage. And underneath there are 2 USB-C chargers. And here once again the seats, they're really comfortable and plush. And here in the higher trim with the microfiber, and the lower trim would be that you have fabric here, leatherette on the outside. Yeah, you can argue back and forth what's better. Also has this perforation here. This one maybe if you want to wipe it cleaner and, you know, more like this slick look. And the fabric seats could be maybe like a little bit warmer in winter, a little bit colder in summertime, so depending on what you like. This being the high trim also has the electric seat on the passenger side here, which is on the one hand cool and convenient, also here with the electric lumbar support. However, another feature then, which is unique with this vehicle, is then not put in it because it has the electric seats. If you would have the manual seats, then you could lift this one here up as well, and then you also have a nice storage underneath the passenger seat. However, again, not possible here with the electric version. And the headroom here with the glass roof with 189, 602. Yeah, there's still plenty of headroom left, no problem. It gets a little bit narrow here when I go to the left side, and you can see already from this perspective probably that the seats are not the longest ones, so to speak. So yeah, I mean, it's not maybe the most ideal seating position for a tall driver. That's maybe something, but if you're a little bit smaller than me, then it's also no problem. Driver POV, a left side button here is to activate the level 2 assistance systems. Right side here, this depends. Here, for example, is also a mute button, or you can program it that when we hold it, it comes to this 360-degree camera view, and you see also how quick it actually is. That's pretty cool. And this one here also controls the volume up and down. Here are small digital instruments, but speed and range, so everything you need basically. And you can also
change.
Yeah, you can adjust it a little bit. It's like press and hold on the right. And then, for example, also a small GPS view. Wait, press and hold. There we go. And here like a small vehicle view, for example. So this is possible. And then to the main screen.
Everything's so cute.
Oh, so cute. So Leah likes it.
Yeah.
It does remind us of Mini as well, I think. Here, sport mode, eco mode, that's like a switch to the driving modes. Weather. So very playful design, but look at that, like how quick everything is. Very, very responsive. That's actually pretty cool. Here, a map, that's like a Chinese Google map, is integrated. And once again, look at that responsiveness. That's pretty cool. The climate unit, so either you press like here, whoa, or you can slide directly in here. But there's actually an easier way to do that, even if you're not at all in that menu. If you're just somewhere in that menu, you just go with 2 fingers and that... Not what you think. So here you go with 2 fingers and then you slide up and down on the left side for like the climate DJ here. On the right side it would be for volume, for the music, 14 speakers, and actually it sounds pretty cool. So for a small car, it has really like a very good sound system, gotta say that. And then here, when you swipe like this is then the vent strength. So very cool idea here to have this as a, I mean, physical dials are still better, I feel, but this is a pretty cool reset. Yeah. Yay!
Yes, car!
So back home in Germany, it's in the middle of the night due to the time zone shift here, and we didn't really sleep this night either in the plane. So yeah, please some words of encouragement for Leah. She's struggling also with headache at the moment, but she still keeps on filming just for you, best service. So yeah, please also thanks to her. And she wants to show some more features, for example, here with the sun visors. And they again use the pill design.
That's cute.
Also for, is it with a light?
Yeah.
Was it? Ah,
Yeah,
there we
on the
go.
left, yeah.
There we go.
Left side.
Okay, looks like, almost like a foil from here, but yeah, it's illuminated. Yeah, it's illuminated. Yeah, indeed. And there's more of that here.
The mirror.
The mirror, for example.
And here SOS.
Yeah, for the SOS
and the
button.
lights. Yeah. It's
I mean,
a cool idea.
yeah, they really kept this design scheme
but
through.
I think that could be more in this shape.
Maybe,
right?
the pill shape design. Yeah, that would have looked unique. Let's take it that way. In the rear, we start with the most interesting feature here. Look at that. It's a feature that was actually planned also for the ID2, the ID Polo, and VW was still thinking, can we actually realize that or not? So I told them, please do that, because the upcoming feature is a very practical one. Here, underneath the rear bench, you can lift it up with an interesting mechanism like this. Here, then you have to pull it like that. There we go. And then you have a storage space here for, I mean, it could be, for example, another charging cable you're not using that often, or Leah's son had. I mean, yeah, this should be more accessible. Just as an example here, you can take it back. There's a lot of sun here today, so thanks Leah for being in the sun all day to film us here. There we go. And then I leave this one open because then you can see here, this one can also be put up. And here we have actually the 12-volt battery underneath. Very interesting. Yeah, this could be be done a little bit nicer. So there we go. Yeah, I mean, this is a good idea, isn't it? So we have to get used to the folding mechanism. There we go. Finished. And then you have here the Isofix. They are like covered here. You can put them open like this, and then you can install them like there. So at the moment the seat is set to my driving position, and you can see, I mean, that is really good. That's a space I have usually in a, like in a 5-meter sedan long segment, and this is a meter shorter actually. Yeah, like BMW 5 Series, Mercedes E-Class, that's like the space you have with your knees here, or Audi A6 and so on. So this is a very good use of a space. Here once again you see also this pill design here, for example at the head restraints. You can also see in the top at the rear lights, also at these small hangers here.
And in the door.
And inside the door, yeah, once again the pill design. Top part here in the rear is not entirely hard, so it's also a nice surface. Then here the microfiber on the inside and this very trim. The electric handle then for the window, and top part nothing covered, but there's like enough space then. Overall 14 speakers, by the way, for the sound system here. And we have a space all the way through here. So that's also a practical thing. You usually leave this floor mat in and then you just vacuum clean it actually. And then as for the headroom, so with one A962 there's still headroom, so no problem for tall adults here in the rear. That's really good. Leah signalizes me I have to put my shirt a little bit straight. Thank you so much, honey. So here, this panoramic roof, the fixed panoramic roof, it's either like this in Europe in the higher trim level, in China is standard, and planned for Europe that the low trim has a fixed roof, and I would actually recommend that. I mean, this looks cool. You can look in, like, for example, when you drive in Shanghai, in China, you look from the inside to the outside, you see the skyscrapers. That's actually pretty cool. But then again, when it's a hot summer day like this, I mean, it's even just spring and it's already hot. So the sun does come in here, even though it has like a filter in there, but still it gets hotter in the cabin always in comparison to a fixed roof. That's actually quite certain. Also the same nice high quality animal-free materials here. You can also see it here for the rear bench. Nice seating depth, the so-called Einsitzhöhe here. And once again here in this higher trim with some microfiber accentuations, and the other one would be again that you have more fabric used and then also with a leatherette mix. So the build quality also for the rear seats here is actually very good. You cannot fold down here anything, but there is a middle seat actually, so, and it's actually also soft enough. You know, there's this drinking game always when I say actually you have to take a shot, right? You just save that for the next party. Yeah, I mean,
Oatmeal shot for us.
so yeah, oatmeal shots here. Yeah, that's a little bit closer, but still for emergency situations, not emergency, I mean, for cases where you need more space than or as like third person here, it's actually fine. So very good uses of space here overall. Once again, combined with the good build quality here, this middle head restraint can also be put up. Actually pretty impressive here in the rear. Guess where to open the trunk? There it is, this button, because you can also get an automatic lift gate. That would also be a difference between a low trim and a high trim, for example. By the way, I forgot to tell you, 150 kilometers an hour or 90 miles per hour is the top speed for this vehicle. So just that you know at which speed you can have your luggage flying all the way around. And here you can see there is in liter figures, there's one figure from Europe already, from the European spec that says 400 liters. The Chinese spec would be 335 liters. It depends on how the stuff is measured. There are always different measurements for that, but the real important measurements are from the classic Autogefühl ruler, and this is here in width. Here, yeah, about 95 in centimeters or 37 inches. Then we have the height here at the maximum level, here about 30 inches or 77 centimeters. And here we have some 29 inches or 74 centimeters. You can see here the luggage fits easily in, also a little bit more. This is also pretty low, this ground here already, because if you see, I could lift it up, but there's not much more underneath there. Very interesting. And then we can also fold this. And once again here, this pill scheme, design scheme, everything is designed like a pill, like here. And then I can also put it around here. There we go. And then we have the total length. You can see here, it doesn't fold that flat. And here the total length would be some 57 inches or 1 meters 45. Just want to check if I would pull up the head restraints a little bit more, if we can go lower. That should be possible. Let's see here. Yeah, I see here. A little bit lower would be possible if I pull up the head restraints, but not much more actually. Let's start driving the Firefly. And we're here in a narrow parking lot. Ideal condition for this vehicle here, because it is indeed tiny, but that's exactly what it's made for. Easy steering, and you immediately feel that you can basically turn on standstill, so a very narrow turning circle, rear-wheel drive, and then the front wheels can also turn in pretty easily and so on. You sit relatively high actually still for a small vehicle. So, me as a tall person, I feel it's also a tiny vehicle from the seating position, but still works with the headroom as I've shown to you on the interior part. And this is exactly here about Chinese traffic. You always have to watch out. Someone can be coming from anywhere, basically. There we go. So, and we will drive. Oh, so it has a nice acceleration. You can also pick different driving modes. We can soon talk about that. The usual acceleration figure to 100 kilometers an hour from 0 is about 8 seconds. Interesting turning indicator sound, right? Isn't it? Yeah, and you have this very compact steering wheel, so that rather makes like a, let's say, sporty atmosphere. 18-inch wheels, so we went through this pothole there. Also going to comment on the comfort and suspension and so on. Standing still here, there's a lot going on around us here, and it's relatively silent, I would say. This panoramic roof here, as I said earlier, is an option. So the base model would have like a fixed roof. This one here with the panoramic roof might be a little bit louder than on the motorway and so on. And of course, it's a quite nice and warm day here today, and you feel that the sun does come in to the panoramic roof, definitely. In general, as for like the knees and so on, when I'm sitting here and driving, you see it's the good thing that we have this open space here, so we both have long legs, so they can move around freely here in that middle part. We also have the vehicle controls here. Driving, I can, for example, put it to the sport mode here. Then we also have a good acceleration. That's interesting. It also shows me like how long the traffic light is still on red, and then I can soon accelerate out here. There we go. Yeah, it's once again here, like all the forms you can see have this pill form, like the rear view mirror, and also when you turn on this one here, the mirror here, and they kept this design philosophy all the way around the vehicle. Right, let's accelerate a little bit. Woo. Yeah, that was a little bit stronger punch than in the sport mode, so definitely goes quickly in the city. That's the good thing about the EVs. And this one is still a somewhat light EV, under 1.5 tons. I mean, the battery always has some weight to it. But still, since it's not the biggest battery, that still works. I feel here in the sport mode now that the throttle is way more responsive than before, so gotta be gentle with that. The recuperation setting can also be adjusted, so at the moment I have it set to low, and then I'm rather using the brake to control it. But you can also adjust that. I'm more a friend of to have it rather setting low. You can also set it standard, high, or automatic will also be possible, and also a one pedal driving mode is possible. And let's just see here when there we go. Here when I tap the throttle, then I leave it, it comes also to a full stop to have this real one pedal driving. You can also turn it off and have it set like here, low or standard, depending on how you prefer it. Actually, that's a good thing. As I said, I'm rather preferring also to put less stress on the passenger seat, on the passengers, that I have it like rather low and then finally tune it with the brake. But there are different philosophies out there how to handle this regenerative braking. The steering is actually pretty precise also, so when I do some like very fine steering commands here, like right and left, there's no dead zone area to it. At the same time, it's actually also light to control. Turning indicator here is actually a good overview of the vehicle as well. So it's very easy to steer it around in the city. The seats here while driving, they're actually pretty soft. They're also kind of short, as I told you, in the interior parts. So maybe it's not the most... This is a totally normal driving behavior here. Gotta get used to that. In Germany, people tend to leave a little more space while driving. But then again, if you come to Southern Europe, for example, it's also a little bit more narrow. And these situations are really good for that vehicle, because if you would have also something that is wider now, maybe you feel stressed at some point or something like that. But here it's actually very easy to squeeze also into tiny openings and so on. It is actually fun to drive. So feels agile, feels light considering small. You have this go-kart feeling. So definitely, if you want to have something comparable, yeah, would be like a Mini electric, for example, Renault 5, and of course we're all waiting on the VW ID2 or ID Polo, as it will be called. These would be then the direct competitors as for this respect. The suspension is, however, not tuned too stiff, so you have to think about it. It shouldn't be too uncomfortable, even if we go through this like sewage systems cover and so on. It's actually not too rough, although 18-inch wheels are not small for such a tiny vehicle, definitely. So far I actually like the suspension setting. So went back to the comfort mode now, and then I feel that the throttle input is a little heavier. There's also the eco mode available for best efficiency, and in most cases this will be driven in the city and around and so on. Long term is of course always a problem with charging and the range. I'll comment on the range and our consumption for today here at the end towards the video. Of course, here we can predominantly have these situations here. And at lower speeds here also the noise insulation so far is actually quite good, 60 kilometers an hour. Maybe at a later stage when it is available in Europe, and also when we can probably drive on the German Autobahn, and we can also test it actually with higher speeds. Let's also push it, say, a little bit more when we do a lane change here to see the reaction of the vehicle. Yeah, there you feel that the suspension is not tuned on the stiffest note, but that's a good decision, I feel. Just that you don't feel too many bumps in the city. But it's still fun, so the suspension is stiff enough that it's still fun to steer it around. And we can do some highway driving and also test the level 2 assistance systems. So now you see here some small corrections left and right. So I do hold onto the steering wheel. We also have the GPS set, so it can actually also make some automatic turning indicators and setting. Let's see. I won't trust this one now. To go. Sometimes you just have to go here. That's in Germany we rather like let someone in and like let the others drive first. And here you have to drive first yourself. Otherwise you will be sacrificed by someone else, So back to the level 2 assistance systems. Pilot is activated, keeping us like the distance to the car in front of us, and also then here right and left. So I do feel that sometimes there's like some minor corrections. It's not as smooth as some other systems, but we already had some situations earlier where it was automatically setting turning indicator and switching the lane and so on. So that was actually pretty impressive. But here it's always tricky because so many unpredicted things can also happen here. Oh no, please hold on to the steering wheel. See, I have to move it a little bit then that still realized I'm here. So yeah, of course, no level 3 systems here yet. And they will also work on these level 2 systems bit by bit. There you can, in a distance, you can maybe always see the Shanghai skyline, pretty impressive. Here, stuff like this, like someone moves in very closely, that can always happen. And that's really hard to predict then what. Here, for example, I need to help the system a little bit when the lane is switching. So let's activate it one more time. There we go. I mean, what's cool actually is it's very easily activated. Just one click, and then you also have this nice clicking feedback, for example. There we go. Now we have a slight right bend. This is done in a smooth way now. That's actually pretty cool. There we go. And let's now try to induce like an automatic lane change. See if it does that. There we go. So I did not turn the steering wheel. The car was that. Oh, that was actually quite nicely done. Let's go back to the other side. There we go. And done. Yeah, and this is like more like an inner city highway. I have something similar of that at home, where I live in Germany, actually. So like where some cities are connected with a highway, and then you have regular exits from that highway. I have to get one more. I think it's all three to the straight, right?
Yeah, but you're on a right lane where it goes down.
Okay. I see. Yeah. It's sometimes not that easy here in that dense traffic. But that's, of course, also what this car is basically for. And
oh, it's so annoying for the passenger.
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. Leah's
I'm like...
Leah's getting the adrenaline pumping.
boom, boom.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more like a relaxed person in general,
Yeah.
but you gotta get used to it. So it's really helpful if you have a silent vehicle. And I mean, at least at these lower speeds, the vehicle is relatively silent. We have to test it maybe the latest section again in Germany on the Autobahn at really high speeds.
You feel that's not.
You mean like when the level 2 systems as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, as a passenger, it's even more stressful when someone is going in from the right and left again, and then the systems are reacting and so on. So in a way, you can also still drive yourself in a smoother way in comparison to the level 2 systems, definitely. But here also the lane changes when you are driving a little bit faster are also pretty cool. I really feel that the difference to the Mini is that the Mini has a stiffer suspension. And also the Renault 5, to me, felt a little bit sportier, considering for a Renault, the Renault 5 drives very sporty, I gotta say that. But I think it's actually good that they here said, okay, we have a small vehicle, it's still fun to drive, but we rather find a comfortable, softer setup also as a contrast to some of the competitor models, you know? So I think by that, this vehicle here also gets like its own small, unique niche in driving. What I also want to show you is here the turning circle. So here turning all the way, there you can see that works quite well. You can also go a little bit faster.
I filmed it also from the
it's
outside.
Fun, yeah. Also from on the outside. Yeah, I mean.
And Thomas was like,
we can do this all day, right? And here, by the way, parking in and out. Here, a lot of MPVs being used here, by the way. Here is just very easy to ease this one here into a parking lot, and here with this 3D surround view, you can also see if we stand correctly inside the two lines. This then the view to the front or to the rear when I switch it around. And I also have these helping lines when I want to park in reverse. No, that's free, that's fine. So let's see, there we go. And then they kind of predict where I will be going, that I also go in there in a smooth way. This is, could be maybe a little bit better from the resolution, but you have to consider it's already quite big and wide. Yes. This is automatic parking. So this was first one, the manual parking, but we can also try the automatic parking, of course. So yeah, this lazy Leah. Let's see, so what the cars. Slot found, keep vehicles stationary. Maybe this one. There we go.
Yeah, this one, the yellow one.
Release brake, pedal. Oh, you see, there was a BR still in the code. Well, a visual, basically, showing us the back end. Let's see how smooth, and how quick this goes. Oh, even shows like here the centimeter value. I could have done this faster myself. But at least, I mean, it's not many overcorrections or something like that. So, oh, there we go. I mean, similar system like we've seen in the Tesla. Yeah, I think pretty much flawless. So in warm conditions here and also rather slower speed city traffic, of course then ideal consumption figures, so something even close below 12 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers, that's more than 5 miles per kilowatt hour. And that would mean a real world range for this case then of more than 300 kilometers and more than 200 miles, here even some 340 kilometers. Yeah, that's the ideal case. Of course, when we can maybe later test it also on the German Autobahn at higher speeds, consumption will go up, range will go down. But if you really keep this city scenario, what this car is mainly meant for, then it will be something around that, at least then also in summertime. And as for the prices, well, in China you can also get it for around 20,000 euros, but you cannot really compare it because the market here is even really more competitive as for fierce pricing battles. And of course the average income is also lower, and in Europe also if you add some of the tariffs and so on, you will end up having this here for a starting price of 30,000 euros. We all have this like the Dutch price so far available in the Netherlands and also in Norway. If you watch this video at a later stage, maybe already in some other markets, but it will be something around that, for example, also in all the other European countries. And then we all have to see when you go for the higher trim what what you have to pay extra for that. But definitely it also plays in this region of the other competitors. VW promises the ID.2 or the ID Polo starting at 25,000 euros. Then we will have to compare the trim levels and so on. And the Renault 5 also starts at a lower price with a smaller battery. So it's not that this one is way cheaper than the other competitors, but then again, it already comes with a lot of standard equipment and some very interesting features for sure. I really liked in driving that it's rear-wheel driven. The only problem could be that when you are rather tall like me, then the seats are a little bit small and the seating position doesn't offer too much space. However, the seats themselves are nice, soft and comfortable, and they also have an astonishingly good build quality, profiting here the Firefly brand from this Nio experience. Being a premium brand, they can also bring stuff of the build quality experience in this very vehicle. It will also be available that you can have this LFP battery swapped at the swapping station, but not with the current stations. Yeah, they are up there. There's for example a swapping station back there, Nio swapping station. But this will not be available with the Gen 1, 2, 3, 4, but only with the next generation 5 Nio swapping stations. In China, there are a lot of them, but of course it's a thing to really build up this parallel infrastructure in Europe. So in Europe, they will probably rather rely then on charging. So what do you think about the Firefly? Tell me in the comments, and now tune in to the competitors.